Hi, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. We're waiting for everybody, so give it a minute, okay?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Jonathan. I'm a new hire at the I make the
In the Innovation Center?
yes.
Oh, awesome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hey Donnell, good morning.
Good morning, sir. I see you met our friend Dr. Wynn.
Yes,
Hi.
yes, no.
Yes, Dr. Wynn,
Hi,
Jonathan is.
Omar. Hi. Hi, Donnell. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, there are four of us right now. We'll see if the students are going to join us. So let's
Sir.
give them a few minutes. It's Trisha now. Some of my students, they email me. They said they can't make it because they have something else going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we wait, I'm gonna just give everybody a couple minutes. How are you doing, Omar?
Fine. We are doing my job every day. Yeah.
That's good.
I am somehow busy. I have a
Oh, okay.
full-time job.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do as a full-time job?
Yeah. At 8:30, my lecture starts. Or also, I have administrative work also. I am a registrar at KTI, Kuwait Technical Institute.
Oh, okay.
So I 30 to 6.
I see. So, do you teach full-time too, or I'm sorry, part-time?
No, about 8 hours a week.
Oh, 8 hours a
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Okay, that's
Teaching.
good.
For administrative work, I have to be present.
Okay, I see. Yeah, there's
Thank,
a lot of administration involved with teaching.
thank you.
Is it a private school?
I am a assistant lecturer at private school also, and
Okay.
but I am a government.
Oh,
Government.
okay.
Yeah.
I see. Sorry, I have to let my dog in for a second now. So we got a couple people, so I'm gonna maybe wait a couple more minutes before we start. So right now, this week, what I have going on too is we have a California Mayor's Cup, which is the cybersecurity competition that's happening on Saturday. I have 3 students that are participating in the competition, and they're very excited. I ordered them some sweatshirts. In it to win it is their team name.
Yeah.
Get
Of
it?
them success
IT.
for you and your team. God willing.
Yeah, so thank you. I hope that they gain some good experience and it will be good. Okay. So I have 2, 3 people. Hi, Joe. Hi, Trisha. Hi, NK. We're a little bit light today.
Yeah, Casey, two SEs emailed me that they're not going to be able to make it today. But we did add
Okay.
Jonathan. Jonathan just started with us, Casey.
Awesome.
So he's a new student employee, just started this week.
Okay. That's fantastic. So I'm hoping that we can do some design discussion today. And it looks like Global Solution has asked me to, use their Miro board, so that way they can find out what's going on with our group. And then I had emailed them about the last session in the 5th session, or fill out the information that we will try to keep it in the morning so everybody can attend. But so far, they haven't given us the timeline on how they're gonna host the last event. So I'll keep you posted. Okay. So let me. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about first before we start? No. This is a rainy morning in California. Okay.
Yesterday, hail was coming down.
Yeah, I thought it might snow like last time, but it wasn't cold enough to do that. So we've been getting a little bit of a cold front on our end. I think it's small enough where we can verbally share. And I had asked my student I give them extra credit to join. So, okay. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. It's 5 and 2.
Abraham and Jerry should be on their way. Abe was getting into the lab and Jerry was having some internet issues, but he's trying on his phone. So there should be a couple more.
Okay. So NK said that she's excited. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're a little sick. Okay. So what we'll do is I'll put this into the chat. This is a warm-up question. And Jerry is with us now. So they want us to start with talking about the story behind our name. And if you like to share information about the story behind your name. And then today we're going to talk about empathy. Okay. So as far as for me, my full name means Green River. I was named after Mao Zedong's wife. I don't know if you know Mao. I was born on the day that she was arrested. And so my father decided that my first birth name is Yang. My middle name is Tan. When we came to America, I decided to change my name. So Yang in Chinese or in other languages, Asian languages, mean river, and Tan means green. So if there's a story behind your name and you like to share, maybe you can either type it in the chat or share with us. Anybody wants to share?
I can share.
Okay.
So, and this is all based on my mom's testimony. But I'm a junior, but technically I'm not a junior because my dad, I guess he was born without a middle name. But when I was born, I was given his name, but I was given a middle name. And then like my dad started attaching his middle name pretty much to mine. So I'm named after my dad, but he's kind of named after me also, which is weird. So, because he didn't have a middle name growing up.
Oh, that's interesting. So Trisha put that her name, it means noble woman in Latin. That's good. That's really nice, actually. I am named after my maternal grandmother, Patricia. Oh, and that's more of a cultural thing, right? Like I noticed that in the American culture, usually some people would be given the name after somebody in the family, either they're highly recognized in the family or they have passed on and people wanted to continue that legacy. Omar, what about your name? What is your name about?
Actually, you may hate my name before because my first, middle, and last name is similar to the president of the Sudan.
Yeah, I did look you up. Yes.
Yeah, just we have the same name. But the
Awesome.
story, I am not sure about the story, whether my father has a connection with the president of Sudan or not.
Okay. NK, I know you're excited to answer this question if you can't verbally say it. Can
Yeah, so I kind of had two Nigerian names. I'm Nigerian, by the way.
Okay.
So my first name is Nkiruka Nkirumbandidi, and I go by NK for that reason. But that one means the future is brighter. When I
Oh.
was born, my dad's mother passed away a week before I was born, and so he was kind of mourning and also excited at the same time. And his family kind of told him, the future's brighter. Don't worry, you might be going through a lot right now, but in the future things will get better. So that's kind of why they named me my first name. And then we kind of have a tradition in my family where my mother's mother gives us a second name. So my second name is Ndidi, which means patience. I guess I was a problematic child growing up. I cried a lot and I was just always fussy. As far as I can remember, all of our family pictures, I'm crying in all of them. So my mother would have a really hard time getting me to cooperate or smile for pictures and things like that. And so her mother told her that she needed to have patience with me. And so that's kind of why they named me Patience.
Oh, that's really nice. I love that story.
Thank
What
you.
yeah, thank you for sharing. That's really great. And Trisha, thank you for sharing. Jonathan, what about you?
Yes. Okay. So my name is Jonathan, obviously. And I kind of take it a little for granted sometimes because I feel like it's such a common name. And my dad specifically tried to make sure that my name wasn't too um Mexican cultural for when I'm applying to jobs and stuff like that. So that kind of gets me a little sad. But then I think about my birthday. I was actually born on the same day as my dad. Um, so and in the Bible, Jonathan means gift from God. So he calls me his gifts sometimes.
Oh, that's really nice.
Hmm.
And is there anybody in your family named Jonathan, or he just come up with the name because it sounds Americanized?
Yeah, I think he liked the name because it sounded American, but also the meaning gift from God. And I was born on his birthday. I think he really liked that.
Oh, so it's a gift to him. That's
Yeah,
what it means. Oh, that's really nice.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing. That's
yeah, of
great.
course.
Donnell, do you want to share the story about your name?
Yeah, so named after my mama. So my mom's name is Donna Lane. My name is Donnell Lane. It's actually interesting when you look it up. It says it has an Irish origin, which would be from my grandmother's side of the family. She's half Irish, and it means great chief, actually. So sometimes you can find that it means great chief of the universe. I like that one.
I was gonna say it's very suitable because you are a great chief of a clan. Yeah, that's really cool actually. I did not know that Donnell means great chief. I learned something. That's
Yes,
fantastic.
yes,
Thank you for sharing.
absolutely.
All right, let's go. So I'm gonna go to the next square. So that will be Jason. You want to share a story about your name?
Sure. On my grandma's side, or I guess it'd be my great grandpa, his name was Julius. So they wanted to stay with something with a J. And so they came up with Jason. If I was going to be a girl, they were going to go with Jennifer. And I know it has ties with like healing or helping, kind of more from a medicinal standpoint. So yeah, I like my name, and actually one of my brother's names is Jonathan, so we got a Jonathan in here, and my other
Oh,
brother is Justin. So on my dad and stepmom's side, they wanted to stay
I
with.
have two brothers with the same exact names.
oh,
Oh
that's
wow! So they wanted to
Jason
stay
and
with
Justin.
J. And it was funny growing up.
Oh
Whenever
my
we were
God.
in trouble, they never knew which name to say, so they just yell out, "Jason, Justin, what voice? You're in trouble." So it was
Oh my gosh.
kind of
I have the
confusing
same
growing up.
exact experience with my family right now.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
so Triple J, huh?
The triple J threat. Yep.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Then we're gonna go to Jerry. Jerry, you wanted to talk about your name?
I really don't have too much to say about it. The straight up, my dad's just his pride. He has to be named Gerardo just like me. That's that's all I remember. I mean, he would always tell me, you're my firstborn. You're my son. He goes, he told me who I was to him. I was everything to him. So he's like, and just to kind of see it, like I was telling you, I remember talking to you before. It's my family looks up to me. About that, I'm the only, besides my son now, but I'm the only Gerardo in our family, in the whole family of mine. So it's
when your son, when you found out that you're gonna have a son, did you consider naming him also Gerardo, like the third, or?
Actually, he is Gerardo the third, but just like Joe was saying, we don't really have the same exact name, but I wanted to name him Xavier Serrano. So we call him Xavier because his middle name is Xavier. And I picked his name because I used to like watching X-Men and Xavier, Professor Xavier, that was what I wanted. I mean, it sounded so, like
unique and strong.
Yes, unique and everything. And to me, it catched me. But my ex-wife, she said, no, it goes, wouldn't you want him to have your name too? And I was like, okay. I go, I figured, maybe the youngest I would have him. But she said, no, because let's just name him Gerardo Xavier Serrano. And that's what we did in the third. So.
Okay. So the heritage, that's like the traditional American approach is to continue the heritage with the family name being carried on. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. We have Patrick here with us now. So Patrick, we've been having a conversation about names. Can you share a little bit about your name? What your name means?
Yes. So for my name, it comes from, it's a Latin name from Armenia. They actually call it Patrice. And it comes from the Roman name meaning patrician, meaning nobleman or someone from like a educated or rich class. So it really is just a biblical name, but it's a Armenian name. And something funny about my name also, in Arabic, it's my family, for myself, I'm half Arabic and half Armenian. They don't have the letter P, so they say Badrik all the time. But there's no P in the alphabet for in Arabic. So it's so some of my relatives or some of my friends that I know, they would always call me Badrik, and they would say other things like Bebzi or Bull or anything with a P or B.
So was there a nickname that they call you, or they always call you Patrick?
So as a kid, my cousin would always call me Patar, and it was like a mix of like, I don't know where it came from, but it was like a mix of, I guess, Pat and to make it sound more Arabic or something. But that's pretty much it. That was my nickname.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for sharing.
Thank you.
Abraham, do you want to share a story about your name?
I'm named after Abraham, from the I guess any holy book really. So I have many sons. That's what I know. I have Ishmael and so many others I can't name. Yeah, so I was named after the father of many, and him and his wife Hajar. So that's where my name comes from.
So it has biblical context. Is there anybody in your family that has the same name, Abraham?
We all have different religious names.
Oh,
but they're all names from the original like Arab tribes in Saudi.
I see.
Yeah, so my brother's name is Ishmael, and then my other brother's name is Emmanuel, and then yeah, they just go down the line.
So usually a family would choose a theme, right? And then they would select go with that theme, and some family would have more of a biblical theme, and then the others would, use names that would mean something to them. And I think it's such interesting stories. It tells you a lot about the family, our names. Like I know in my family, if I'm looking at all my cousins, like my cousins, they have very unique name, and most of them don't change their names. Even some of them are born here in America, and their name would mean like jewels and kings and queens, um, things like that. But um, going back to the story behind my birth name, my father told me that my name means the river, so that way my life will flow like a river. And so that's just kind of like the story behind it. But also because my mom didn't want me to have the same exact name as Mao's wife, so she swapped it around. And and then their story behind their name too, that they would have like some kind of theme with their family. So
Many people think I am Middle Eastern when they first meet me. And then, so my name, you're actually supposed to pronounce it Abram, but
Abram.
people say Abraham, which is fine. All my life, people have been saying Abraham. But people from the Middle East, they replace all the A's in my name with I's. So they call me Ibrahim.
Abraham. Yeah.
Mhm.
Very cool. I did not know that like there's a little emphasis in different culture with your name there. Because for me, like when I think about Abraham, I think about the great, right? Like Abraham Lincoln, some of the names that you would hear in historical context. But thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
really
think
good.
mostly it's because it's just one last fact and then I'm done. So my family was from Spain, and when the Spanish were taking back land from the Muslims, most Arab families either converted to Catholicism or ran away to North Africa. And so half of my family ran away to North Africa and the other half stayed in Spain. So the other half of my family went off to become Tunisians, and then this half came to America.
And it's interesting that you brought that up. So I'm going to share a little bit of information about why you see my last name being a very common in the Vietnamese culture. Um, so long ago, there was a king, and when he ruled, he decided that he wanted to eliminate any family that would not have a last name like his, or enemies, basically, so that way he would stay king for a long time. So people were scared of that. So what they did was they changed their last name to Nguyen, so that way they could be safe. And so that's why you see a lot of family that would have the last name Nguyen. We make up 80% of the Vietnamese population because Nguyen was such a safe last name to have. And then from my mother's side of the family, she's 100% Chinese, born in Vietnam, and they could not spell her last name and her grandfather, her father's last name when they created the birth certificate. So they decided to give them the Nguyen as the last name. So a lot of the times when you see Nguyen, it's actually not our real last name, but because the family, they chose that last name to be safe and so they don't get assassinated. So this is why we have such a huge population with the last name Nguyen. So just, I thought I'd share. But I have Abraham, thank you for sharing earlier. We have Cynthia with us. Hi, Cynthia. We're just talking about our names. You want to share a story about your name?
Hi. Oh, I don't really know anything about my history name. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I should know, but I'm not sure where my name comes from. I know that my grandma told me that she had some family in Italy, and I guess they had the last name Roman.
Okay.
Um, but I'm not sure. I didn't even know I was Italian until she told me that. I'm
Oh,
not.
that's
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I only considered myself Mexican, but it's interesting to see where some of my family and like how they were raised, and I don't know. It's yeah. I'm
well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your heritage, right? You have I did not know that you have a little bit of Italian, but based on your name, I just assumed that, because California makes up there's such a diverse culture in California, right? We have so many people from so many different culture. Um, so that's but when you look at somewhere like New York, you do see a lot of Italian in New York. You do see Puerto Rican in New York. So like coming back to California, a lot of the times you see like a good mix of different culture. But thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your heritage.
Thank you for sharing as well. I didn't know about the your last name, Professor. I have a lot of friends who have the last name Wen too, but it's good to know about it, the history.
Yeah, I think that even for a lot of Vietnamese, they don't know about why they would have a last name Nguyen. That just passed down through the family.
Hmm.
And I had decided to look into it. And I watched a documentary, and they talk about that particular king and how long he was ruled for. And back then it's all about land and power and all of that. So, and in the past, Asia has been just like a one huge nation, and then eventually it got divided into the smaller nations. And this is why you see the Southeast Asian people, we have a lot of the things in common, from food to, before some of the influence from the West is that the religion is very much the same. We worship ancestors, very much like Mulan. That's what you see, um, and things like that. So there's still a lot of that, even though like my family is Catholic,
Hmm.
but we do a lot of the stuff that's still traditionally carrying in the culture, like like putting food for ancestors before you eat, things like the things that we practice every day still.
Oh,
So
I heard about that. Last time when I was in a Spanish honors class, we were doing a research project about the Day of the Dead.
mhm.
And I learned that a lot of Southeast Asian countries have been practicing that before Mexican culture. So it's pretty cool.
Yes. So it's just a way to honor, and with that we also have things that we honor with our name. I think that comes across in all culture too, right? Like you have your last name that was being carried for your family honor. And in a lot of the countries, I know that people would refer to the last name first and the first name last. And in America, we would use our first name first. Um, and so it's very interesting to learn about everybody's name, because it talks a lot about your culture, your familial culture, and it's important to kind of be aware of that when we're working with each other. So that's very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else want to share or talk a little bit more about their names or anything else? Okay, so if we don't have anything else, next we're gonna talk. I'm gonna share a video. Okay, one second. Let me open it up, and then we're gonna watch a short little video on empathy, going back to our last discussion, because we're going to have to think about empathy when we think about design, and we're going to go into a little bit of design today. Okay, so give me one second. Let me know if you have issues hearing this.
We all live in our own version of reality, a reality that is limited by our senses, our temperament, and our own experiences. It is the only reality we will ever truly know. But it is crucial to our personal development, our relationships, and to society itself that we make the effort to try and experience other people's realities as well. This is done through empathy. Simply stated, empathy is an active attempt to understand another person's perspective, their emotions, and in essence, their reality. We are social animals, and our ability to communicate and understand each other's emotional states is key to maintaining our relationships. So it is little wonder that the ability to empathize is hardwired directly into our brains. One area that assists in this process is the right supramarginal gyrus, which helps us to distinguish our own emotional state from that of another person, and plays a key role in our ability to observe and assess what other people are experiencing. Studies from Neuron Science Journal suggest that we have systems of mirror neurons in our brains that cause us to mimic the actions of others. That is why when we see someone yawn, we will often yawn in reply. And when we observe someone experiencing joy or pain, we experience the same sensation to a certain extent. But these reactions are primarily driven by subconscious reflexes. In order to be truly empathic, you have to actively think beyond yourself and your own concerns. You can develop this empathic skill by practicing some simple habits. Be observant of others. We tend to spend the majority of our day dwelling on ourselves, caught up in our own daily routines and digital distractions. But taking the time to observe others around you is a good first step in developing your empathy. Watch and wonder. Try to focus on the person's state of being rather than categorizing or labeling them. Ask yourself, what kind of day are they having? How are they feeling? Challenge yourself to genuinely care about their well-being. Curiosity about others is the first step to expanding your empathy. Use active listening. During a conversation, especially a heated one, most people formulate their response before the other person even finishes their statement. This form of communication is more verbal combat than an exchange of ideas or opinions. Avoid this reflex by slowing down. Rather than rushing to reply, take a moment to consider the other person's statement. Ask follow-up questions to better understand what the speaker intended. Try to understand their emotional state and the deeper motivations behind their statement. What life experiences led them to their current worldview? Remember, you don't need to share someone's opinion in order to understand it and acknowledge it. And listening will help inform and expand your own opinion. Open up. Learning more about other people's experiences is a key element to seeing the world through someone else's eyes. But it is also important to open up about your own feelings and experiences. Empathy is a two-way street that at best is built upon mutual understanding. Through a combination of uncovering the deeper motivations of someone else's position and expressing our own underlying concerns, we often discover a shared commonality, even with those who hold different beliefs than ours. Through the practice of keeping an open mind, empathy helps us challenge prejudice, find commonality, and expand our moral universe. Without it, we are apt to label people outside our circle as the other, the problem, or the enemy. These labels draw lines in the sand that prevent us from moving forward or growing. It cuts us off from the realization that the human experience is a shared experience. We have much more in common than we think, and are really just seeing small variations of the same reality.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and stop share. So with that video in mind, what we're gonna talk about next is we're gonna address these two questions. Put that in the chat. So the first question for everyone is, why do you think empathy is important? I think we touched a little bit on this last time when we were talking about environment. Second question is, how could you apply empathy in your own life? Okay, anybody wants to share first? Why do you think empathy is important? And how could you? Yes,
I
Patrick.
think it's important because I don't want to be dark a little bit, but 2 weeks ago I had a funeral for my uncle, and
sorry.
so empathy is important because it helps you connect with the others and like sympathize and understand them and let them feel more comfortable. When you can empathize with them, you make them feel like they're being understood as well, or they're not alone. A lot of the times you can feel alone like that. So I think that's very important for empathy. And for the second question, how could you apply it in your own life? I'm not sure. I'm still trying to, like he was explaining how to build empathy and how to work on it and like how to study it. in the sense like how do you look at the certain case or this environment. I'm not very good at empathizing, so I really wouldn't know. But if I were to try my best, how I guess it would just be like imagine as if you're that person and try to relive their life in your head. That's what I usually try to do really quickly. So I think that's the best way for me to empathize, because then I would say, okay, this is where they're at. If I was this person and I'm here, this is how I feel. Then I would say, oh, I understand how you are, and then I would communicate back and forward. I think that would be the best way for me to try to empathize.
So Omar put that empathy is important because it solves the problems in the community. And I agree, right? Having a different perspective in how people look at the problem or what they're facing. And, going back to what we were talking about with the culture differences. So that's more of like what would and in the video it shows like that you would see it from another perspective and seeing it from another view. um Jonathan, do you want to share anything about empathy?
I think that point you just made right now is really good about viewing um things from another person's perspectives, because like while you might feel comfortable, somebody else might feel uncomfortable. And I think it could always be flipped. You can find yourself in an uncomfortable position. um I think in my culture, there's a saying a lot about when somebody's in need of help, and um you see that, you got to think to yourself, like, today it's you, tomorrow it's going to be me. So I'm going to help you out today, and then tomorrow hopefully you'll be able to help me out too. So um we might not feel like we have problems now, or we might even feel like we have problems, but um like other people have problems as well. And once we're able to empathize with each other and try to understand each other's problems, um I think we'll be able to realize that we're all within our ability to help each other and solve those problems.
Okay. So thinking about like, that what would be the problem across and be able to determine the solutions and looking at it from a different perspective, right? And going back to the video, a lot of the times we see things from our own view, our own upbringing, our own background, and it's about me, right? But then when you step out of yourself and you say, how does this person feel about the solutions or the problem itself, and see that do they see a different solution? So I think collaboration is a good way to tie together empathy, and some of that we're going to do with the design process today. And so is there anybody else? Jerry, do you want to share about empathy?
No, actually, you guys are already hit all the points. But it basically just kind of want to keep an open mind sometimes with everything, and just look at just like we're saying, everybody talks and has their mind open and listens to everybody. There is no way that you cannot solve a problem, really. If you guys put all your heads, because you'll come up with something. You can take a piece of somebody's, perspective and another one, put it together, and next thing you know, you're solving things. But the main thing is keeping an open mind, I think, for everything.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that can be challenging because, like from a perspective of if you think that your approach or your goal is really great and you're passionate about it, and then somebody else might have a different perspective about that, and that can impact the feelings a little bit personally, but at the same time, so having an open mind is important, but I think sometimes that can be difficult. It depends on the situation, but
Mhm.
then we're gonna have to make adjustment to that, right? Like, um people are also passionate about their ideas and their solutions,
Mhm.
just like how we were looking at all the problems that exist, and looking at what could be the possible solutions that we were trying to address today.
Mhm.
So with that said, right, when we think about the design today, we don't have to think about clean water, right? Because I had some questions last time, like, do we have to really address only the clean water area? If you're passionate about other things, maybe you can include your opinion and then share that with people and maybe come up with, some kind of solutions that would help in different areas. Because um the target with this was just originally for clean water, but we wanted to kind of start with the emphasis in the clean water area, but we don't have to fully address the solution. If you have other things that you want to express, of course you can bring that up. Okay. Donnell?
If you wanted to move on, I was fine. I was going to once again say something about empathy, the importance of it. So to me, it's about understanding, from this gaining understanding from the understanding that everything that we create in the, like, this whole universe is created from our perspective, right? Like, so every time I'm walking around in the world, every meaning that I give into the world, like, no matter what's said to me, no matter what I touch, it's all happening inside of me, right? Like, so this universe is really my universe. And the only way I can understand anyone else's universe, because everyone on this call has their own universe, right, is by understanding that my perspective is not your perspective, is not anyone else's perspective, actually. And there's no true way that I can understand your universe from my perspective. There's no way that I can do that. The only way that I can glean any type of semblance of an understanding of what's happening for you is simply to listen. And to listen to how you describe things, to listen to you from your side of the house, to listen to your experiences, and then to ask questions as to, if I don't understand something, to be more inquisitive as to where that, whatever it is, where that perspective came from, right? And so it's a lesson that I learned where I ultimately, when my quote unquote marriage failed, I think it was more so due to my lack of empathy. I did not know how to listen for understanding another person's perspective on the other side of the table. So it just turned into listening for my own understanding of the words from my own perspective, which was not what was happening. And so it left me basically devoid of a connection point to what that person was going through, right? And so there was no way to really build from there without that connection point, without that level of understanding, or even the attempt, right? Because I think we might not be able to find understanding in everything. That like trying to understand life is like trying to walk up, along the beach and putting all of the sand of the beach into a small pail, right? We're not going to understand everything, but if we have a bunch of people walking on that beach with a bunch of pails, we can have a bunch of conversations and try to collect that information and talk to each other about what we're collecting. So that's just been my perspective. Empathy is something that I feel like saved my existence. So I really feel passionate about it. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for sharing. And I like the analogy with the beach and the pail, right? I know that you love the beach as well. But do you feel like it is okay to reject initially, because it all, like you mentioned that there are different perspectives and everybody operate in their own universe, right? And the normal reaction would be, even though, because there's a difference between listening and hearing and all of that, right? But is it to a certain level, like you said, that there will be never 100% acceptance to anything, because we function in such a different environment mostly. So is it okay to have that rejection, and have that barrier, at some point, right? Not 100%, but but taking into perspective
Right.
of a
No, I was gonna say, yes, I do think it's okay from the standpoint and understanding that if you are doing it, it's simply because you are, not because you're right, not because you're wrong. It's simply because you make a choice to be that way from your own perspective, not from some grand point of I know what's right for everything in this universe, because you can't know what's right for everyone. So I would say, yes, it's okay to reject from your standpoint, understanding though that it has no bearing on anyone else, right? Like it doesn't mean that it's some kind of categorical right or categorical wrong.
and I think that's important to take in a little bit, because like from my perspective, sometimes rejection can mean that, like, I'm wrong, and maybe I'm not, because we disagree, right? So I think out of what you were just saying is that it's okay to disagree sometimes, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's, if you disagree, it could be because of experience. If you had the same kind of experience, or something that somebody else experienced that you can, and maybe if you explain, then they'll understand and they won't feel rejected. But I think a lot experience sometimes has a big hit on that. So like for me, if you don't have the experience when you're trying to tell me something, it's a little bit harder for me to take it in versus you experienced it. Like when I was going through what happened with my father and me, when he passed, I was listening to people talk to me, but it wasn't the same of someone that actually experienced it.
Right.
So I think experience has a lot to do with it.
And do you feel like when you hear from a person that had the same experience as you do you take that more seriously than the people who didn't have the same experience? From your perspective, do you feel that way, or was there something because you felt like they have compassion, and they had faced what you face? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I just think that there was certain things that I did take in. Like, I saw that they cared enough. The people, even though they didn't have the experience, they cared enough to reach out to me, and even just somebody putting their arm around you and saying, "I'm sorry," or even if they tell me I don't experience the same thing you did, but I feel the pain. That's still something. But when there is somebody that had the same experience as you, and you're seeing that you're going through different emotions, and you can relate it to them, then you're able to talk to them a little more about it. Mm-hmm.
So it would be easier to open it up, and so taking that perspective into what we're going to be talking about is to look at the solutions, right? I think it's important to think about the background and the experience that the person that's delivering possible ideas or bringing the ideas to the table, and looking at what kind of experience can they bring to the table, and how that relates to their idea, and having an open mind, like you said earlier, and everybody was sharing some information about empathy earlier. So Jason, do you have anything to add about empathy?
Yeah, I always think of like the analogy, walk a mile in their shoes. So just to kind of, get it from their perspective. Something that really stuck with me, and I've thought about it, but probably about a month ago, we had a very passionate student employee meeting, and some of the students shared something that really stuck with me. And I feel like I'm a good empathizer, but this really hit me when they said we're students first, student employees like second.
Okay.
And so that kind of like hit home for me, that we're all busy, but that's their core, their main focus is to focus on getting educated, to earn a degree or certificate, and prepare themselves for the workforce or transfer. And so that really hit home. And I think about that also with my staff too, that that I supervise. So, you know, Donnell and I are in charge of a lot of student employees and classified staff. So, you know, we gotta think about their perspective and where they're coming from too, and vice versa. It's got to be a two-way street, I think.
Right.
Yes. And thank you for sharing that. I think that I have a similar experience in that, right? Like throughout my 15 years of teaching and the way I am operating my class now, I look back and I always ask myself like, you know, I need to bring myself to a perspective of a student. Like in a
Right.
day, if the student is gonna do my assignments or they're doing this, how is that gonna impact their life? Because ultimately, when we think about it, we operate as a human being, as a family member, right? At first, and then after that, we are an employee, we are a student, we are a teacher, we are a professor, we are this, right? There's additional role, and having that empathy is so important because before, when I was younger, when I give assignments, I was thinking about, oh, I want to make sure that I meet the lesson objective, and this is what you need to do. But then now, and you need to do it today, right? I didn't really think about how that would impact them from a different role perspective. So now I sit back and I said, okay, if I do this, like how is that going to impact them while I still want them to learn at the same time? So thank you for bringing that up because I think about that all the time, every time. um, so going back to what we would be doing very shortly, right? We're gonna think about how would that impact the individual role and then also their experience and you know their perspective on which role is going to be first. That's what Jason was saying, and I think it's really important to really think about the individual view, even though we all live in separate universe and offer a different experience, right? We wanted to keep an open mind and be able to share that experience, um, and maybe come up with something that would you know um, that we can build together. I think this session is about having that conversation and continue that conversation in the future where we can build something together. Okay. Yes, Joe, you want to add?
I have to take myself off mute. So one thing as far as empathy with me, I think it's not enough to say that you have empathy, but it's showing it also. And so I'll just use like I coach football, youth sports. And so not just only telling them, hey, do this play or do that drill or do that. So every practice I wear football cleats. Every practice, sometimes I will even put on a helmet and some pads with them or let them hit me to show them that it's not enough to say do this or do that. But you get a different level of respect when you actually put yourself in their shoes and do the drill or do the exercise with them. And I think with empathy, we can't just say like, yes, I feel for you, but actually doing exactly what they do give you a different perspective on life. Like sometimes they have like different projects where people may like sleep on the street to actually feel what people sleeping on the street really feel like. Because we think sometimes just feeding them is the solution, but sometimes they may not want a meal at that time. Maybe they want some warm or some clean socks or some clean clothes. And so, actually putting yourself in that position and doing what the people that are, and not whether they're going through some good or bad stuff, but actually doing that, you get a open mind to what people can go through, and it may make you a better person also.
And it's good that you bring it up because you know coming from my role, like I really think about experiential learning, right? Like the things that I do in class, every lab that I write, every program that I deliver, I do it with the students because with that, like I would really have that experience, right? Because sometimes everything seems perfect in on paper, right? concepts that will be perfect. This is what the author of the book is saying, or this is how the instruction is relayed. But when you go through the process from a technical perspective of if I deliver this to my class, it might be perfect on paper. This is what the website is saying. This is what the manual, the documentation is saying. But when you do it, you have you might come across problem that you have to solve in that process, right? Um, so I think that, yeah, it's really important to tie in that experience before we share that experience, right? Or doing, the sharing process or the collaboration process. Um, and so, you know, going for the session, when I looked at the plan, the stuff that Global Solutions were giving us is basically having the conversation and understanding our, a mix of different perspective and to be able to collaborate. But at the same time, I think that we have to, begin that process, to really do it and be able to share some information together and possibly even that, dabble a little bit into the design. Um, is there anybody else that want to add before we transition to the next part, which is gonna collaborate and, have empathy while we're doing that?
Dr. Wen, could I share just one little thing?
Sure, Cynthia.
Sorry. I was thinking because with all the conversation going on, I was thinking about just how the way that we view water.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it seems like, I know that it seems like we view water more of like a privilege than it is a right. And I remember when I was part of a program at RCC called Mighty United Nations, and we were representing a country, Eritrea, which is a small African country. And my topic was desertification, and we just, from what I've noticed, it's like farmers sometimes have less access of, well, it's not that they, sorry. So farmers sometimes are criminalized when they are trying to receive water, because I guess there's this type of law where they're not able to grab water because they don't own land. And I think it's got tied into the topic with empathy. I think if these water companies were a little bit more empathetic, they would become more compassionate people and, see water as more of like a right than it is a privilege. I mean, I was going somewhere with this, but that's
well,
pretty much.
I see what you're saying, right? Like if we're looking at corporate America, right? And even when we're looking at technology company today, okay, like Uber, and from a service or the product perspective, we have to ask ourselves about, are these company, are they empathetic of their consumer, right? Some are more aware what the consumer is needed, and some are not, right? And all of this comes into like, are they aware of their employee? Are they empathetic with their employee, like the Uber situation or the Lyft situation, where there needs to be wages that needs to be lifted for these drivers, right? Benefits that needs to be contributed. So going to what you were saying is that the organization that's bringing water to these farming communities, are they empathetic of the farmers that are going through the difficulties and the challenge and drought? And so do you think that's important when we're looking at like solving those type of solutions? How are we going to be able to, have irrigations and bringing water to these community? Why is it important to have that kind of empathy?
Oh, did you want me to answer?
Yes, sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I think looking at the situation, I mean, here in Texas, we can see that just like kind of the way water is monopolized, and it kind of seems like something that is, something we need to live is not accessible to a lot of people. And I think it's really important to have these conversations with these companies because, they have a lot of, stake in their hands. And I think it's just about the way we like have these conversations with them. I think one thing, I was watching this documentary about Jane Goodall, and I like how she was able to, I think I mentioned this before, but I liked how she was able to develop a relationship with some oil companies so that they can change the way they do their business and invest in types of like sustainable, um, like more sustainable types of, I guess, measures or solutions instead of destroying, like, for example, she wanted, so what they would do is there was a company that would do harvest palm oil, and palm oil is very destructive for the chimpanzees habitats. So she went to go talk to the company owner, and she was providing some type of other solutions to harvest this type of oil that didn't also harm the local communities, because there are times where the local communities have to so they'll start planting palm oils instead of planting their gardens or their foods. So just coming up with like those type of solutions that is benefit for also, I guess, the company to make a profit, but also helping people along the way and their local habitats.
Right. So having the awareness and having empathy for the community, the surroundings, and how that can impact the local community and the people there is important. I think that any solutions from, I can only speak from a technological standpoint, right? Any solutions have good and bad, right? We have to look at both sides. A lot of the time people emphasize, this is the best solution. It's going to solve a lot of the problems, but we
Right.
have to look at the negative impact of that same particular solution, because there's always a positive and a negative risk in delivering any form of solution.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody else wants to add before we go into breakout? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I have some, did anybody else want to say anything?
Oh no, sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, let me unmute. I mean, mute.
So I'm going to set up 2 breakout rooms, and then in your breakout rooms, I'm going to give you so let me actually drop the link in for you first. Okay. And we're going to do a mind map with Miro. Let me share. And then, so this is for team 1. And then I'm going to share another one for team 2. But if you didn't get the link, I'm sorry, let me reshare that, because it has 2 buttons. It says for team and for for everyone to see. So that's for team 1. And then let me go and get team 2. So what we're going to do together as small groups is to come up and share ideas about how you wanted to build the solution. And I simply just put like a little blurb in there about water filter, but it doesn't have to be about water filter. It could be another solution that would help with clean water, or would help with any of the UN mission. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up your breakout room. And let me see. And let's do 2 rooms. And if you decided that you wanted to use Tinkercad while everybody is, you know, coming up with ideas or collaborate, you're welcome to do that. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me see. I'll just let it do automatically and see how that goes. And if we need to go from between one room to another, we can. Okay. All right. I think that's a good even mix. Okay. I'll pop into the rooms shortly. So you should see the invitations.
Abraham.
Welcome back. Time just went by so fast when you're having fun, right? I think we lost Omar in the process, or he might have jumped off. Could be connection wise. But how did that go? Did that go okay?
Yeah, it went really well.
Yeah, I saw you guys are super productive. You know, that's great. So, what we're gonna do next week is we are gonna pick up where we left off, and then I want to spend a little bit more time on the designing process. And what I'll do is we will probably have to send out some reminder to the people who register. Maybe they'll be able to join us. Especially, I'll tell Omar to reinvite his students and so forth. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll pick up
Okay.
next week with warming up, and then go back to the Miro board, expand a little bit more on collaboration, and then maybe start thinking about design. I know that the second team started talking about 3D print and all of that good stuff. And so so we'll pick back up. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks,
And
Casey, for facilitating.
We'll
yeah.
see you.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
we'll put it on video on YouTube. So take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.